Here's a question the whole world is asking. Is China still afraid of the United States? From trade wars to the South China Sea and Taiwan, Beijing is showing more and more defiance. But is this real power, or just a hardened shell on the outside? After the Cold War, China had just begun its reform and opening up process. In the 1990s, the PLA, People's Liberation Army, was still outdated, while the US stood as the absolute superpower. In 1996, during the Taiwan Strait crisis, the US sent 2 aircraft carrier strike groups, and Beijing immediately backed down. That was proof China once had to look up to Washington with caution. But 3 decades later, things are different. On the economy, China is now the world's second largest economy. Its GDP has grown more than tenfold since 2000. On the military side, the PLA has modernized rapidly, building aircraft carriers, deploying DF-21D and DF-26 carrier killer missiles, and developing hypersonic weapons. When it comes to technology, Beijing is investing heavily in AI, space, and advanced defense systems, fields once dominated by the US. All of this makes China more confident when facing America. We can see Beijing's changing attitude in multiple events. Trade war, China refused to yield, retaliating with tariffs of its own. South China Sea, it built artificial islands, militarized them, ignoring US freedom of navigation operations. Taiwan, the PLA now conducts regular drills, flying across the median line of the strait, something it rarely dared to do before. Global diplomacy. Beijing strengthens ties with Russia, expands BRICS, and increases influence in Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, directly challenging US dominance. If you ask whether China is already on par with the United States, the answer is still not quite. In terms of military power, the US still holds the edge in global reach. The size and versatility of its naval, land, and air forces, its logistics networks and support systems, as well as its extensive experience in joint and allied operations. When it comes to alliances, Washington commands NATO plus allies in Japan, South Korea, Australia, and the Philippines. Beijing has virtually no true military alliances. Economy. China remains heavily dependent on exports, especially to the US and the West. A full decoupling would hit Beijing hard. Today, China wants to project itself as an equal rival, but it knows the risks of direct confrontation. And in the long game, both Washington and Beijing know this. A direct clash would bring devastating losses for both.